Sometimes the most powerful stories don't begin with victory, they begin with loss. Today, we are not talking about politics, power, or propaganda. We are talking about people, about 7 brave soldiers who stood guard on a silent border and never returned home. In a world obsessed with competition and conflict, their story reminds us of something deeper, that peace is not just a dream, it's a responsibility. You see, borders can separate nations, but they cannot separate humanity. Every soldier on every side fights believing they are protecting peace. But what happens when peace itself becomes the victim? That's what we need to understand today. This is not a speech of blame. It is a reflection, a journey into truth. It's about what really happened on that border, what it means for the region, and what it teaches us about courage, communication, and compassion. So, stay with me till the end, not just to hear about what happened, but to feel why it happened and what it tells us about the kind of world we are building. Because sometimes one tragedy can hold the lesson that prevents 100 more. And if we truly listen, maybe, just maybe, this loss can become the beginning of something greater: understanding, peace, and hope. The incident that unfolded today along the Pakistan border has left the nation and observers deeply reflective. According to official statements, 7 Pakistani soldiers lost their lives during a sudden exchange of fire in a volatile frontier zone. Early details remain limited, but preliminary reports indicate that the confrontation began when routine border patrols detected unusual movement near a restricted zone. In such regions, even a brief lapse in communication or an ambiguous signal can lead to tragedy. The Pakistani military has stated that they responded to perceived aggression, while sources from the other side have provided varying accounts, highlighting the confusion that often surrounds such high-tension areas. Independent verification is underway, as both parties have expressed the need to determine the exact sequence of events. The area in question has long been recognized as a security-sensitive region, often witnessing sporadic incidents due to its rugged terrain and overlapping security jurisdictions. Poor visibility, extreme weather conditions, and difficult communication networks further complicate operations. Soldiers deployed there often work under immense pressure, with seconds separating observation from action. It is within this context that today's exchange must be understood not as an isolated act of hostility, but as a reflection of the fragile peace that still governs this border. Authorities have confirmed that investigations have been initiated to trace what triggered the engagement and whether any procedural missteps or intelligence lapses were involved. Military officials have emphasized restraint, urging the media and public to avoid speculation until facts are fully verified. This approach signals an understanding that misinformation at such times can escalate tensions and mislead international perception. Beyond the tactical details, what makes this event significant is its human and diplomatic dimension. Each fallen soldier represents a personal sacrifice and a collective loss that extends beyond the defense lines. The tragedy highlights how quickly stability can unravel in regions where history, politics, and geography intersect. It also underscores the importance of constant vigilance, transparency, and better communication between neighboring forces to prevent such incidents in the future. The immediate aftermath is marked by grief, but it also presents an opportunity for reflection on how misunderstandings can turn deadly, and how the pursuit of peace must continue even amid loss. The geographic setting where the recent border incident occurred plays a crucial role in understanding how such tragedies unfold. This region lies along one of South Asia's most complex and militarized frontiers, stretching through steep mountains, barren valleys, and sparsely populated villages. The terrain itself is unforgiving. Sharp ridges, narrow passes, and unpredictable weather make it one of the most difficult borders to patrol and manage. Visibility can change in minutes. Communication lines are often disrupted, and movement across uneven ground can be easily misinterpreted as infiltration or aggression. In such an environment, Even the most advanced surveillance systems face limitations, and human judgment often becomes the deciding factor between calm and chaos. This particular border area has historically been a flashpoint, where geography amplifies the existing mistrust between neighboring nations. Unlike urban or open borders where monitoring is easier, this landscape creates blind spots both physically and diplomatically. Patrol units stationed here operate in isolation, sometimes cut off by snow, fog, or landslides, relying on split-second decisions to determine whether movement across the line is a threat or an accident. These challenges are not new. They have shaped the dynamics of the region for decades, keeping peace fragile and temporary. The local population, too, is affected by the geography. Villages on both sides often share ethnic, cultural, and familial ties, but the harsh terrain limits regular contact and creates logistical hurdles for trade and communication. During tense periods, civilian life becomes disrupted as roads close and fear spreads through communities that depend on stability for survival. Relief operations, when needed, take hours or even days to reach due to poor accessibility. This physical separation reinforces emotional and political distance, making dialogue even harder to sustain. In military terms, the geography demands constant alertness. Troops must navigate not only the landscape, but also the uncertainty it creates. Misreading signals on radar or misjudging the movement of shadows in dense fog can lead to fatal outcomes. The combination of limited communication, environmental hazards, and historical hostility forms a volatile mix. Understanding this geographic reality helps explain why peace on paper often fails to translate into peace on the ground. It is a reminder that nature itself can be a silent player in human conflict, shaping outcomes long before political decisions are made. The loss of 7 Pakistani soldiers on the border is not merely a military statistic. It is a human tragedy that resonates far beyond the battlefield. Each soldier carried with him a story, a family waiting back home, dreams of a better future, and a commitment to serve his nation in one of the most demanding environments on earth. When such lives are lost, the pain travels through entire communities, touching not only parents and children, but also neighbors, colleagues, and fellow servicemen who shared the same duty and risk. Behind the uniform and discipline lies the simple truth that every soldier is first a human being, someone's hope, someone's pride, someone's world. The emotional cost of such incidents cannot be measured in reports or official statements. In villages and towns across Pakistan, news of casualties on the border often arrives like a silent storm, unexpected, heavy, and heartbreaking. For families, the uniform becomes both a symbol of honor and a reminder of sacrifice. In moments like these, the pride of service is mixed with grief that words can rarely express. Communities often come together in collective mourning, not to demand revenge, but to seek understanding and to pray that such losses do not repeat. At a broader level, the human cost also influences national sentiment. The loss of soldiers inevitably stirs public emotions, sometimes pushing societies toward anger or blame. Yet it is precisely at these moments that leadership and wisdom are most needed to channel grief into reflection rather than retaliation. Recognizing the shared humanity of those who serve on both sides of a border is essential for breaking the endless cycle of confrontation. When lives are reduced to numbers, peace becomes harder to achieve. But when every loss is remembered as a story of courage and service, it becomes a reason to prevent further suffering. This tragedy also reminds us of the silent burden carried by those who serve in conflict-prone areas. Far from their families, living under constant stress, these men and women perform duties that most people can only imagine from a distance. Their sacrifice should not be seen only as a defense of borders, but as a call to preserve the peace they risked everything to protect. Their passing leaves behind a void that no military success can fill, only the pursuit of stability and understanding can honor. In the aftermath of the border incident that claimed the lives of 7 Pakistani soldiers, official reactions from both sides have been cautious, measured, and notably restrained. The Pakistani military's initial statement confirmed the casualties and expressed grief over the loss while calling for an immediate and transparent investigation to determine the facts. This approach indicates an understanding that premature conclusions or emotional statements can inflame already tense situations. By emphasizing verification and restraint, the authorities aim to keep the situation from escalating into a broader conflict. The tone of the response also reflected a growing recognition that communication and clarity are as vital to national security as military readiness. Neighboring authorities in turn released their own statement, expressing concern over the loss of life and reiterating their commitment to maintaining peace along the border. Though narratives often differ in the early hours after such incidents, this particular exchange of official messages suggested a shared desire to prevent further confrontation. The presence of international observers and diplomatic missions monitoring the region added another layer of accountability. Several global organizations have already urged both countries to prioritize dialogue and ensure that investigations are conducted in accordance with international standards. The international community's involvement at this stage is both expected and significant. Regional stability in South Asia remains a priority for many global powers, not only because of humanitarian concerns, but also due to the area's economic and strategic relevance. Any escalation along such a sensitive border could have ripple effects across trade routes, energy cooperation, and security partnerships. Therefore, diplomatic circles are closely following how both governments manage public narratives and military communication in the coming days. Domestically, Pakistan's leadership has urged citizens and media outlets to avoid speculation and misinformation. Responsible reporting, they stressed, is crucial to prevent the spread of rumors that could harm ongoing diplomatic efforts. The government's message was not one of hostility, but of patience and unity, a reminder that national strength lies in composure rather than reaction. Similarly, neighboring authorities have called for restraint among their own media and political voices. Such synchronized restraint is rare in regional conflicts and may signal a subtle but meaningful shift toward maturity in crisis management. Both sides, despite differing interpretations of the event, appear aware that one careless word could undo years of fragile diplomatic progress. The broader context of this border incident reveals a complex web of history, politics, and fragile peace that has defined relations in the region for decades. While today's event is tragic, it cannot be viewed in isolation. It is part of a larger pattern of periodic clashes, misunderstandings, and uneasy truces that have long shaped the border dynamics between neighboring countries. This particular frontier has seen repeated cycles of tension followed by tempo. Rarely calm, driven by a combination of unresolved disputes, competing national interests, and deep-rooted mistrust. Despite numerous ceasefire agreements and diplomatic engagements, maintaining stability in this area remains a constant challenge because the underlying issues are political, not merely military. In recent years, there have been efforts to strengthen ceasefire mechanisms and communication channels. Both countries established hotline links between military commanders and regular diplomatic exchanges to prevent misinterpretation during sensitive moments. However, while these measures have occasionally succeeded in diffusing small-scale confrontations, they have not eliminated the fundamental sources of friction. Border skirmishes often arise from local triggers, a movement misread as infiltration, a technical error in surveillance systems, or the unpredictable actions of local militant groups exploiting the tension between two militaries. Such incidents become flashpoints that test the resilience of peace agreements and expose the thin layer separating calm from conflict. Beyond military factors, the border tensions also reflect the political pressures that leaders on both sides face domestically. Public opinion, nationalism, and media narratives often influence how governments respond to even minor incidents. In many cases, restraint is politically difficult, especially when casualties occur. Yet, in recent months, there has been a notable shift in diplomatic tone from both sides, signaling a desire to move toward pragmatic dialogue rather than open hostility. The increasing presence of international mediators and regional organizations encouraging peaceful engagement also indicates that there is recognition of the need for stability over confrontation. The incident serves as a reminder of how fragile peace remains in regions where past conflicts still cast long shadows. While both nations publicly commit to peace, the legacy of mistrust continues to define their interactions. The broader context surrounding this loss demonstrates that achieving lasting stability will require not only political will, but also consistent efforts to build communication, transparency, and mutual confidence across one of the world's most sensitive borders. The tragic loss of 7 Pakistani soldiers underscores a deeper and more urgent truth about the region, the need for stronger coordination, open communication, and a genuine commitment to preventing future bloodshed. Incidents like this reveal not only the dangers of border volatility, but also the consequences of failing to build sustainable systems of trust between neighboring nations. The lesson here is clear. Peace cannot be preserved through military strength alone. It requires constant dialogue, institutional cooperation, and the moral courage to choose restraint over retaliation. In areas where even a brief misunderstanding can trigger violence, both sides must invest in mechanisms that allow for immediate clarification, real-time verification, and direct communication between local commanders before small tensions escalate into tragedies. The incident also highlights how outdated approaches to border management struggle to keep pace with modern realities in today's interconnected world, where intelligence, technology, and diplomacy are deeply intertwined. Reliance solely on patrols and surveillance is no longer enough. Joint border monitoring initiatives, transparent reporting systems, and third-party observers could help reduce suspicion and prevent future miscalculations. The experience of other conflict-prone regions shows that even bitter rivals can establish communication protocols that save lives when they are guided by mutual benefit and respect for human life. This tragedy presents an opportunity to rethink priorities, to move from managing crises to preventing them. For too long, regional policies have been reactive, driven by fear and competition rather than foresight. True leadership lies in recognizing that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of understanding. When military and political leaders choose to communicate, they reduce the space for mischief and manipulation. Each time a dialogue begins, another potential clash is silently averted. It may not make headlines, but it saves lives. On a human level, this loss calls for empathy and reflection rather than anger. The soldiers who died were performing their duty, protecting their homeland under conditions few can imagine. Honoring their sacrifice means learning from what happened and ensuring that it does not happen again. The most meaningful tribute is not retaliation, but resolution, building systems strong enough to prevent such losses in the future. The path forward lies not in proving superiority, but in proving maturity through cooperation, patience, and peace. In the end, this incident on the border is not just about loss, it is about lessons. 7 lives were taken, but their sacrifice should awaken the region to something far more important than rivalry, the value of human life, the urgency of communication, and the shared responsibility of peace. Borders divide land, but they should never divide humanity. The tragedy reminds us that nations rise not by defeating others, but by defeating fear, anger, and the temptation to respond with violence. True strength lies in restraint, and real victory lies in understanding. If both sides choose reflection over reaction, this moment of sorrow can become a turning point toward a safer and wiser future. Let the loss of these soldiers not deepen hatred, but strengthen the will for peace for their families, for their nations, and for generations to come. To everyone listening, may this message inspire empathy and awareness not just for this region, but for every corner of the world where peace still struggles to survive. Let us hope that reason will prevail over rage, and that leaders will rise above politics to honor humanity itself. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your commitment to understanding rather than judging. May peace guide your thoughts, courage guide your actions, and compassion guide your hearts. Good luck, and may we all continue working together for a world that values life over conflict, truth over fear, and unity over division.